Greetings and welcome to this video covering the information system development life cycle, or perhaps more accurately, as we'll come to find out, the information system development life cycles. Now, an information system is at its core data, but also includes the components of information technologies in the form of hardware and software, and the human-oriented components of people and procedures, or sometimes people refer to this as processes. The system development process in general covers each of these five components. That is data, the IT components, and the human-oriented components. A lot of folks mistake or misinterpret system development as being what would more accurately be called software development. That's considering software and, well, at least to some extent, data. But the system development lifecycle considers all of these components, and depending on which phase or contextual factors, such as what the actual system is that we're developing, some of these components may be emphasized more than others, and some others may be de-emphasized. The system development lifecycle consists of 5 phases of development. Now, when we say phase, a phase is a cluster of activities, and those activities can and will differ from project to project. So this is a very high-level sense as to what goes into system development. The first phase being planning, which is coming to an understanding of whether or not a new system is needed, and if so, then we move on to the next phase of analysis. What does the new system need to do? What requirements are necessary for it to solve the problem that we're trying to solve or to fix the business issues that we're trying to fix? The next phase is design. And for simplicity's sake, let's just say that design is roughly kind of getting an idea and sketching up the blueprints for exactly how everything within the system is going to work, function, and operate. Then we move into implementation, which is putting all the pieces and building any components or revising any existing components for the new system. Finally, we have operation. And in the operations phase, we're looking at maintaining and ensuring that the system is secure. Now, there's different ways in which these phases can unfold. The first being this sort of step-by-step process of going through each phase one at a time. And this is really a kind of standard approach to managing a project, that it's plan-driven. Management department or a particular manager draws up a plan as to what exactly we're going to be doing, when it has to be done by, and who's going to have which role and who is going to share which responsibilities across the development of this information system. So if we're looking at this in terms of how these phases unfold, the idea in its purest form is that we do all of the activities in planning, and then, and only then, after we've completed all of the planning, can we move into the analysis phase and perform all of those activities. And only when we've completed all of those, we can move on to the design phase. And then you guessed it, we complete all of those activities, then we move into implementation. And implementation is where we put all of the pieces of that system together. The hardware, the software, the data, the procedures, and the people. From there, now that we have a functional system, we can move into maintaining the operations for the system and ensuring it is secure and providing users, the people within the system, with any sort of support that they need. Now, if something in the system needs to change, whether it's software, some data aspect, or even the roles of who is interacting with the system, then, well, we need to go all the way back and draw up a plan, as this is the plan-driven approach. So to make any change, we're going to have to go through this process one step at a time again. In other words, it's sort of like flowing slowly down a waterfall, which is why it is called, as another name, the waterfall process of information systems development. So now we're going to make a change. We got to go through all planning, all through analysis, all through design, and then finally we can implement that change and continue to support and maintain the operations of it. And if another change is needed, so on down the line until we can implement that change. The plan-driven approach tends to be slow, but it also tends to be very precise and careful. Now, contrast this with another philosophy or approach in developing information systems. And this idea is that, well, we can kind of work on phases at the same time, going between phases and across phases. We can do this iteratively. That is, we can go through one iteration of these and have at least some rough deliverable for the information system, such as a prototype for software that is going to be a part of this system. And then over time, we continue to go through several cycles or iterations of each of the phases of the development life cycle until ultimately, in place, there is that information system in its, let's just say, completed or operational form. We'll continue to improve the system over time by going through iterations throughout the operational lifetime of the system that we have in place. So this approach focuses on iterative development, which in theory reduces overheads. This, in its more popular form, is called agile, and that focuses on rapid delivery of function, being able to respond to change without a lot of rework. And this is in contrast to the waterfall method, where if we need to make a change, we have to go through all of the phases yet again. In agile, since we're constantly iterating, we can quickly implement a change without causing issues prior to that change or likely issues after that change, which we had already planned out. Agile development tends to focus a little more heavily on the software aspect of a system rather than going through some of the other phases and the activities in them as strictly and as stringently and as carefully as we do in a more waterfall-oriented approach. So I want you to think of waterfall and agile as really different philosophical approaches to the system development lifecycle. In practice, the lines aren't necessarily so clear. But in this video, I really just wanted to get across to you the distinctions between a system development lifecycle, which follows more of a waterfall approach, versus one that follows more of an agile approach. There's another video coming up in which I go into more detail about agile versus waterfall, so stay tuned.